All right, we're going to call the Energy and Environment Advisory Committee meeting for Tuesday, May 27th to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We have 4 of 7 members present, so sort of have a quorum.
Loose quorum. Sounds good. So as far as a roll call, we're all set, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'd say we offer public comments, but I know you're quasi-public, so I assume you'll have comments and questions with for Freedom Energy. Do you have anything now? Okay, I didn't think so. All right, so just ask for a motion to approve the minutes from April.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from April.
You have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Minutes from April pass. And now we can just jump right into, we have 2 men from Freedom Energy here for presentation for related to community power, I think. Or I'll let you guys, Joe, do a better introduction.
Do you guys want to introduce yourselves and then we'll dive right into the Freedom Energy program?
Yeah, sure. I'm Nick Shostak. I'm the CCA team lead in New Hampshire for Freedom Energy.
Howard Plant, Vice President of Procurement, Freedom Energy.
And yeah, we're here to discuss our strategy towards CCA for the town of Newmarket, as opposed to what you guys are currently doing now with CPC&H. We have some slides to go over. Really, it's meant to be a guide. Like, this can be more of an open conversation. So if there's any questions that pop up, there's some slides that are educational slides, like learning about what CCA is. I might be wrong in assuming you already know what CCA is because you're currently in a program, but we can certainly go over that stuff as well and how it affects everything in regards to utilities, how our strategy differs from CPC&H, and how our all of our aggregations currently are below the utility price.
Is Community Choice, is that an actual entity or is that the program?
So it's called 2 different things. So you can call it Community Power Aggregation or Community Choice Aggregation, are usually the 2 acronyms that you'll see. So CCA or CPA, 2 acronyms that usually see referring to.
Okay, so there's Freedom Energy, and CCA, or the Community Choice, is really just is the aggregation program. Is that correct?
Yeah, CCA or CPA is the name of what aggregation is for the community.
Okay.
Yeah. So Freedom Energy, we're a consultant that administers a CCA program.
Okay.
So we shop for rates. If you hadn't launched already, we would actually perform the launch and do all the mailers and public info sessions. There's a numerous amount of things that you guys have already gone through. But we do shop for the rates with multiple suppliers, and then also maintain like all the updates with the PUC, between the town and the PUC on the aggregation program.
Maybe just give a brief background for us. So, Community Power, they launched in 2024, I believe. In 2023 they launched. Newmarket launched a year later, March of 2024.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
By March of 2025, after our first year of operation, we had saved Newmarket residents about $140,000. Okay. Then, because of the financial issues that Community Power ran into, they had to raise their rates higher than Eversource. We're an Eversource company, entity here. Because they had to raise their rates higher than Eversource, that $140,000 has since been eroded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so, even though I had told you before, I was on the board of directors for Community Power, I still currently serve on their risk management and governance committees. Okay, so I have somewhat of an interest in them, but my responsibility is to the people of Newmarket and the residents of Newmarket. I just want to throw that out and make sure that everybody understands that.
Completely
So that's
understand.
where we are now. So because rates are higher than Eversource, and our responsibility is to getting the lower rates to the people of Newmarket, that's why we're in discussion with you guys. Okay, what can you do for us? What's your plan or program, and how can you potentially help Newmarket?
Sure.
So that's where we are.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to do so. If you want, we can go through that as
Yeah.
kind of like a guide. For Freedom Energy, we've been around for 20 years now. We actually, in terms of what we do for towns or municipalities, we actually can handle it all. So we could be your one-stop shop in terms of competitive supply for the town, like the municipal buildings. Primarily, we're here for CCA, but we also have opportunities with net metering opportunities for solar and hydro in New Hampshire. We're actually the largest, what's the term I'm thinking of? Largest provider, not provider, advisory in regards to net metering in the state of New Hampshire. So we can be a little bit of everything for you. Go to the next one. Yeah. So we actually manage over 1.6 billion kilowatts every year between our commercial customers and our municipalities and aggregations. These are not a full list of the 100 plus municipalities that we're working with, and it actually is not even the full list of the CCA programs that we have up at the top there. But those are between Rhode Island and New Hampshire. There's a couple more missing that are with Wyndham and Hampstead as well. And we'll get into some of the pricing later on with regards to the towns that we just recently launched within the past year. I can go next slide. Is everyone pretty familiar with what CCA is and what the plan is behind it? I don't know if you want me to dive into this.
It's always helpful to refresh our memories.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, by state statute allows towns and communities to pool together the buying of their for competitive supply. So the idea is long-term rate stability and long-term rate savings. So by pooling all that purchasing to suppliers, you can get the best rates possible, which is why when you first launched, you launched with an opt-out program, meaning it was pooled together for default customers in Newmarket. The choice set up now, it's still set up as an opt-out program. Anybody, they're free to come and go as they please. That at all, you are free to visit. Yeah, we're following same state statutes and laws and everything that strategy that gets us there.
To something with you guys. Have you done any programs, any municipalities or whatever that were currently on community power? And brought them over to you? Have you done any of those?
So we're in the process of working with 2 towns right now. I don't know if they want to be mentioned, so I just won't mention them right now. But yes, we are working with 2 of them now, targeting a launch date in February for them to switch off of CPC&H and onto our rate program.
Okay. All right.
So not
We'll
currently,
probably come back to that.
but it is.
Or
It's so early with
Mhm.
CCA in general in the state of New Hampshire. Like you said, it just started in 2023. I know a lot of those communities launched with CPC&H. So they're not the only 2 that are deciding to leave, because I know Bow has already announced that they wanted to leave as well. And they're doing it during the middle of the cycle, but we're going through that process. Getting new rates with suppliers and switching the consultants and launching them.
Okay, so all of them have a cost sharing agreement with Community Power, and I think just everybody that's leaving Community Power I believe they're in a deficit with community power. Obviously, that they have to make up. They can't just leave the program and leave the other communities to pick up their the amount that they owe. So how are you making out with that? Is there anything you can share with us on how that's going? Or?
There's really no real numbers that have been shared in terms of penalties. It's very vague. The communication that we received, or the towns have received from CPCNH, with regards to penalties and fees, because state law prohibits any fees or exit fees or anything like that when it comes to CCA. You can't fund this. It's a self-funded program, so you can't fund it with taxpayer money. The municipality cannot be responsible to pay anything. So the biggest question out of all of this is there's terms in the JPA and the CSA that vaguely say they can charge for launch costs, but by now, this being this many years into an aggregation, the launch costs should probably be gone by now, you would think, because you've gone and earned money towards your reserves, then it's gotten burnt through, and then brought back up, and then burnt through again this past winter. So the biggest question is, if they are to impose any fees or penalties or costs, however they want to put it, where does the money come from?
So they can't charge any fees or penalties.
Correct.
Okay, but what they can do is if they can say, if they've purchased more electricity for your community than you've paid for, okay, you haven't met the cost plus the operation expenses, you have to make up the difference when you exit. Okay, so
That would mean if you're leaving in the middle of a rate cycle.
That's what I was just going to say, yeah.
But if you call it opt out, if you exit the program with CPC&H,
yeah, there's a
providing proper notice and whatnot before the next rate cycle begins, and you follow through.
I believe it's a 2-year period, or multi.
Yeah, I think that's the part that's. I guess there's a little bit of confusion there as to exactly how that works and how CPC&H purchases these contracts. So I think it's a little bit vague, right?
The JPA and the CSA, they reference 3 years, but it's 3 years to recover initial costs. This is the way that it reads in there. So there's not, as far as you know, if you're not purchased and included on a lot of forward contracts moving forward, then I guess you could be trapped in what you owe there. But because CPC&H, every rate cycle is 6 months, it would be unlikely that they're purchasing multiple years. You might know better than me ahead of time. But the idea that we're having with the 2 communities that we're working with right now to leave by February is they will be notifying CPC&H well in advance to not be included in the rate cycle for February, so that they won't be susceptible to any losses that they might be incurred, because they've already told them, hey, we're leaving the program, we're not going to be a part of it anymore, so don't include us in the rate cycle. Therefore, the transition should be very smooth.
And of those 2, we're not aware of yet any fees that CPC&H has indicated they would be responsible for.
Correct. Yep.
At this point.
Okay. Now, 2 things. I mean, what's the lead time that you would need if Newmarket were to go with you? What's the lead time that you need to procure energy for us? For I don't know what the rate periods are. Sound like they're elastic for you guys and flexible?
So rate periods are definitely flexible in terms of length of the contracts. We can go from anywhere from 6 months to 5 years. But in terms of when we would start shopping, we'd want to start the process now in terms of like an exit, the signing consulting agreement and moving forward with that, and getting pricing from our suppliers. We'd probably be looking at October, November for a February start. is probably when we would be looking to get pricing. For instance, if you were going to be starting, trying to transition over in February.
Yeah, to be perfectly upfront with you guys, just to be clear, we're probably going to talk to other suppliers as well.
Sure.
Okay, so we're not making any decisions tonight.
Of course, no, not anticipating any. Yeah.
All right, shall we go on?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's still the one with the town council voting about it too, and go through all that. So there's definitely a lag time that we have to consider. But I feel like February would be the earliest we could really commit to getting raised based on all that.
There would certainly be some lag time, a month or 2, I would think at the most. A minimum of a month, at least a month. I'm sure there would be contracts that we would want the town manager. Then there's, getting out of the community power contract itself. So, yes, we would need some lead time to do that. Again, we're just an advisory committee, so we would make a recommendation to the town council to do this.
Yeah, February is more than sufficient time for us to coordinate what needs to be done in order to start, if that's when you wanted to start on the week.
And you're right. You want town council approval to review our consulting agreement and make the right decision. Yeah. And this is really in terms of your relationship with your utility. So in the CCA program now, you can probably attest that nothing has changed with your relationship with Eversource. They're still handling everything that they normally do. The only thing that really changes is page 2 on the bill, where it now most likely says Newmarket Community Power. Before it would say like Eversource Default Power. So that's really the only thing that changes there. And as you know, savings aren't guaranteed with CCA or CPA, but the goal is long-term rate stability and long-term savings over the life of the program. So this is probably where we can spend most of the time today. As I mentioned before, and I'll show you the rates that we got for our communities. We have all of our aggregations currently below the utility. 7 in total, 6 of the rates that I have up there. One of them, Hampton, I didn't include because we're actually working with another company, Colonial Power, when we had initially started CCA back a couple years, 3 years ago? Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah, actually at the beginning of it, in 2023. So where our strategy is different and can provide more long-term savings and stability. Long-term contracts are actually the key to that. If you're going every 6 months, like CPC&H, they're following the utility, so they're still susceptible to that market volatility. Whereas with us, you can build in, say, a 2-year contract, 3-year, I think I mentioned before, 6 months or up to 5 years. You can actually, the goal is always that long-term contract, so that you can build in that long-term stability and that hopefully long-term savings. I know when we'll get to Salem, you'll see they've saved close to $4 million in the first 9 months through the rate that we were able to procure back in November 2025. And that's good through November 2027.
I assume that you would come to us and say, okay, if you do a 6-month contract, here's what the rate per kilowatt hour is. If you do a 1-year contract, here's what the rates are, would be, and so on. I assume that you would give us multiple options.
And we would,
right?
yeah, and multiple options is the key. It's actually the next one there is multiple suppliers. This is kind of what's been CPC&H's downfall. They're operating as their own supplier, or only one supplier essentially. So every time they incur a loss or they miss the mark, they're having to raise rates in the next rate cycle in order to build back up their reserves and get the rates back to get themselves back to good financial health. With us, we have multiple suppliers. So we're going out to bid much like you would for town contracts. You get at least 3 bids to try to find out who's actually giving you the best price. And we have 3 to 4 suppliers that we price out our CCAs with. So every time we are going out for pricing, we're getting a collection of prices to find out if you're actually getting the best price.
So Community Power, they contract with a company called Calpine.
Yes.
Okay. Calpine actually does the purchasing for Community Power. They also upfront the money for, for buying that electricity, buying the supply. And then as Community Power gets, sends out the bills, gets the money in for billing, we turn around and we reimburse Calpine. How do you guys operate? Do you have like a bucket of cash that you guys are your own bank that you're doing something?
No buckets of cash. Unfortunately, I wish I did. No. So essentially, what we're doing is we're running an RFP. So we're going out to suppliers that we have relationships with. We know they're well-established suppliers within New England, and giving them the information that we have. For instance, for the town of Newmarket, we would have to have the list of the people that are still opted into the program, because we wouldn't be, if you were making that transition, we wouldn't be pulling everybody back in and then relaunching again. It would be simply a transition over to the new one, and the only people that would be brought in are the opt-ins, the people that are still included in it. If there are any people that are opted out, they still have the option to opt in. So when we're going out to suppliers, we're getting multiple rates, then we're presenting them to you to find out what you think is the best option. And a lot of that is determined by a lot of different things. Right now we have the Iran war going on right now that's affecting the markets in one way. If you're making this move, if next week they come to a peace, you never know what can actually happen and how that can change rates. But at the time that we're shopping, that's when we'll actually be able to receive the rates and tell you what the best option is moving forward.
But to your point, so the suppliers that we use, whoever wins the bid, so let's say it's supplier A, they supply the electricity, and then the way they get compensated is when the customer receives the utility bill and pays the utility bill, the supplier gets reimbursed by the utility. And that's how they're reimbursed. So sort of like, your question on Calpine, where CPC&H pays Calpine for the hedges of the procurement. The suppliers actually take the risk of the electricity that they've purchased. And so there's no money that changes hands between Freedom Energy and the suppliers or the towns and the suppliers.
And what happens if you underestimate what the demand is going to be? You put on an RFP for X amount of electricity, and if the demand happens to go above that, how do you handle that?
Rate stays the same. So
this is a fixed firm contract.
Yeah.
So the supplier takes that risk.
Okay, so it's on the supplier end, but if they then turn around, say you order like a million megawatts, okay, of power. Assuming, over the next 6 months I'm going to use 1 million megawatts for Newmarket. So that was what the RFP said, 1 million megawatts, right? So if for some reason or other Newmarket goes over that 1 million megawatts, then what happens? Obviously, we're still getting electric supply. But
so these contracts, like Howard had said, they're fully fixed. So the rate stays the same throughout the entire contract, no matter how much you use or how much you don't use.
I got you.
100% swing is what it's called, swing tolerance.
Right.
So if we do use a million plus, that plus is still at the same rate. Cool.
Yeah, the suppliers, when they price it, obviously they have a certain amount of risk tolerance that they take on. They look at the historical use. And there's things that are built in for them in order for them to be able to accept that risk. So if you think of it as a huge bucket of customers, some use less, some use more, and historically they've been able to statistically calculate where they need to price it in order to compensate for swings in use.
So who are your suppliers? Don't you have to go to ISO New England, or is it?
No.
So we work with ISO New England on the wholesale
Right.
side, totally different from CCA. This is a retail transaction that the suppliers themselves, the supplier A, supplier B, they're doing the transactions with the energy and on the ISO side.
Yeah, like First Point Power is one of the ones that you'll see listed in a lot of the rates that we have. Constellation's another one, Clean Sky, and NextEra,
So,
or Energy. I don't know which one we were looking at next.
Yeah.
so the suppliers are actually selling to you directly and ISO, or you?
Nope. Nope, they're actually just, I guess you could say they're selling to each one of the customers, right? So when you sign a contract as a CCA, what happens is the utility informs them that the customer is enrolled behind what's called their load asset behind ISO. And all that usage information for all the customers in aggregate get reported to that supplier. And then the supplier is responsible for the structure behind ISO enrollment.
So, on a contract for Newmarket, you could potentially have multiple suppliers, and so you tell Eversource, okay, Newmarket is getting, this from this supplier and this from that supplier? Is that how that works? Or no?
We would only choose one supplier in one agreement or one contract.
Okay.
So essentially, we're shopping multiple suppliers to basically keep them honest. Make sure we're getting the best rate and the best terms for the town of Newmarket.
Okay, so Eversource would know Newmarket supplier is actually PowerPoint or no?
Yeah, we would advise Eversource and the PUC, should you be making that change, like who the new supplier would be and on the start date.
So how do you guys make money? You get a piece of the action?
Yeah, we have a fee that's actually built into the rate. So in this case, it would be like 0.2 of a penny. So instead, like if you had, like Eversource's rate right now is 11,303. If we got you the same rate, it would be 11,503. That would include our fee. So we don't get paid unless the CCA actually is in place and launched. There's nothing else that we get paid for before
But
that.
it wouldn't get launched above the utility rate.
Well, in this case,
No,
we don't
that's
have to
right.
worry about that because we're not launching the opt-out.
Yeah, so our fee, the 0.2% is built into the rate. So you see the prices that come back from the suppliers, if it's 10 cents, then our 0.2% gets added on to that, the rate would be 10.2 cents.
Okay.
Yep.
But that would be in the contract between Newmarket and Freedom Energy.
Right.
And then, I guess to add to the complication, each customer pays their bill, the supplier gets paid by the utility, the supplier then reimburses us our 0.2%.
Okay. What percentage of your electricity is clean energy? That can vary, I understand.
You can choose. The New Hampshire portfolio standard is 25.2%. So the lowest rate that we'll get will include that portfolio standard. It has to, by state law, it would be 25.2% renewables. You can choose other renewable options. You can go 5% like Wyndham did, and that's their default. You can do 50%, 100%. We can actually provide rates for each of those classes. So if you did want to provide Newmarket with renewable options, we can do that as well.
So we could structure something similar to what Community Power has and basically say, okay, here's your default product. We can have 50%, whatever. Okay, at a
Yeah,
premium
whenever you see
or whatever.
those rates where the suppliers are offering green energy, 5%, 10%, 20%, that's always above the state requirement renewable portfolio standard.
Right.
It's not as transparent as you think it would be if you tried to look that up, but the RPS requirement that started back in 2006 mandates suppliers and utilities to purchase renewable energy credits for a certain percentage of the electricity that is supplied, and right now it's 25%. When it started out, it was a couple of percent. So that's growing.
So just to kind of clarify something on that front. So right now, the residents sign up, they have a couple options within Newmarket's Community Power through the coalition. That's kind of what Joe's talking about, where you can select different tiers. But it sounds like with you guys, we would just, all of those Newmarket Community Power members would just have the one supplier that enter into. There's no choice on their end to kind of set up a contract for them, or?
So the supplier, it would be one supplier. You actually would choose whether or not you want multiple renewable options. That
Oh,
one
you can do the one
supplier
supplier.
can provide rates for all of those options.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's confusing because no one ever mentions
You think
that.
of one supplier and it's like they have the one power plant, right?
Yeah, the RPS requirement in the state is never mentioned. It's just it's embedded into
Yeah.
everything. And all suppliers have to comply with it. But that green power that you see when someone chooses, like, oh, I want to give you 10% green, they don't know it, but that's above the RPS requirement required by the state.
Yeah, I guess
It's technically 35%. Yeah.
in my head, supplier, I'm thinking one physical, power plant. It's like, oh, I can produce this much, but obviously these are companies with their own portfolio and things that they can produce.
Yeah.
So that's how, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really change where it's coming from because it's all coming through
Yeah,
the
they're all
same
putting
grid
it
and
into the
everything.
same
It's
all
really
big
just
bucket.
how you're getting the rate and how much you're paying for it.
So what's the, first step? Would Newmarket, let you know how long they want the contract to be? Is that step one, or what's the first, I guess you could say, variable that has to be decided?
In terms of
before you go.
choosing a contract and an agreement with pricing and everything.
Yeah, that would, give you the variables that you need to go shopping.
Sure. Yeah, and we would shop for really all lengths of term. So we would look at 6 months, we would look at 5 years, we would look at, it would probably be more in the range of 6 months to 2 years is
Yeah.
probably the estimate. But when we're going to suppliers, we're getting pricing for all of those term contracts. So no decision needs to be made until we actually receive the
Oh, that's
pricing.
cool.
Yeah.
So you'd know, okay, if it was a 1-year contract, this would be, you would know, this would be the proper company. But if it's a 3-year contract, this other supplier might be the one to go with.
Yeah, it's possible.
And is it safe to assume that the longer the contract, the less it is financially?
Not always.
No.
Not perfectly.
No, because really the price is determined on the market, so it's not like the more you buy, the more you save, or the longer you buy, the the more you save. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, but because there's fluctuations in the price, and as we know, winters can be very difficult in terms of pricing for energy. So they price those factors in.
Generally, if you look at the futures prices right now, a 1 year versus a 2 year versus a 3-year contract, a 3-year contract would probably be a little bit less. Not because you're buying for 3 years, because you're buying an extended time, and those prices further out happen to be lower.
I see. It's kind of like luck in a way.
Yeah, it's just the way the futures are
Yeah.
trading in the market, and that changes every day.
Yeah,
So if you
that
look
makes
at,
sense.
energy right now for 2027 is trading higher than the energy for 2029.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just,
People think it'll be better in 2029.
that's what it is. I mean, part of it's based on speculation on the supply side. Nothing the Newmarket does with free energy prices. So the suppliers are faced with when they're purchasing the energy.
How many, now just out of curiosity, not because it makes any difference, how many variables are there? How many things?
All that right now.
How many considerations? I mean, it's gotta be a
Oh,
lot.
how many options?
No, how many things does
How
one
many
have to
variables?
look
How many
at?
There's
variables
literally
do
100
the suppliers
variables.
look at?
100, you think?
There
To
are a lot.
decide that it's gonna be higher in 27 than 29?
Yeah, so that's set by the futures market, and that's
Uh-huh.
just the energy part of the price, but your electricity supply price is actually made up of several components. One of them is renewable energy credits, that
Yeah.
is different in every state, that have to be purchased by the supplier. There's ancillary charges, there are capacity charges. There are a bunch of components that all get built into that
Wow.
price. They buy the energy, and then they add those other things in that calculates the complete price.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not as
It's
simple
not
as-
cut and dry.
Yeah, it's not that kind of dry,
No.
no.
So currently,
It's not rocket science, but
Sounds like it.
So currently, the way it works for us now is every 6 months, the rates would be adjusted by Community Power Coalition, and that is it is what it is, right? They renegotiate it, and we're just beholden to that. For you guys to renegotiate the contracts when it comes up, is that something that you need us as like a town to reauthorize, or would it be kind of a rolling basis unless we choose to renegotiate?
So we would need you to reauthorize, yes. So essentially, if you say entered into a supply agreement starting in February, say it was for a year, fast forward a year later, we would we would be waiting until the end of the contract. We would be shopping beforehand, but we would be shopping during that contract for the next contract. And it would be ultimately the whoever it is, the liaison through the PUC or whoever makes the decision for the town of Newmarket on that. Sometimes it's the administrator, sometimes it's the energy chair. But you would choose the length and term that you want for the next contract in order to sign on and continue.
We're looking at that futures market literally every day.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is find an opportunity that's a purchasing opportunity. So we might be coming back to you 2 months after you sign a 1-year contract and say, hey, there's been this crazy dip in the market. Here's what pricing would look like if you bought a contract starting at the end of your current one that you're in. Let's say that ended in February 2028. We'd be looking at pricing that's beyond February 2028, say for another year or 2 years. And we're just looking at those dips and lows and what the opportunity is to purchase.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, at least for me, that as a town, we move at the pace of government, and so it's hard for us to really leverage some of that. And I think that has kind of had its drawbacks for us. And we can't be renegotiating something every month if it has to go to town council vote, for example.
Right.
That's the structure it ends up being. So I think for us, the question of is who's doing that authorization? Because if it's town council, well, we're going to be probably beholden to longer contracts just by the nature of how that would go about versus, say, if it's a town employee that's able to, if it's the somebody in there that can take advantage of that. So I think that's something that we have to understand on our side is what that would look like. Because it would be great to take advantage of contracts.
Yeah, and it's possible because no one has this crystal ball, right? But we're trying to look at the indicators and what we think is going to go on. You mentioned, we hear news 2 or 3 times a day. If you actually look at the energy futures, every time one of those news pieces came out, they changed with the news. It's crazy. And so it's not just oil, it's natural gas, and they all have an impact on electricity prices here. But there's not a guarantee that we see this dip in the market and say, oh, geez, the prices are crazy low, we better just do something now. We might be coming back at some point in the middle of the contract and we're saying the long-term trend here is that things are going to continue to go up, right? As best we can
so that
estimate
long-term
that.
risk gets priced in.
Right. So maybe the next contract is, the pricing now is higher than what you're paying now. Maybe the recommendation is to go before it gets even worse. Because eventually those prices filter down into the utilities because they're just going out to the market for pricing as well. No different, they're going out to suppliers.
Yeah, do you find that, obviously, I would say since really the Ukraine war and probably pandemic stuff too, energy costs have been very volatile, I think, compared to say like the 20-teens that some people are used to. And I think that has been a challenge for residents where they see Eversource at one and there's another and they, it can kind of flip-flop. Do you see that, at least for you guys, you see a kind of a stable trend where it more or less stays either under or around, like say whatever source default rate is?
Yeah, it's tough. You hit the nail on the head with volatility. There's so much of what goes into energy costs is based on speculation. Right? Since the Iran war started, there's still the same amount of oil on the planet. That hasn't changed. Look what's happened to the price of Brent crude, right? and WTI crude oil. Natural gas, which is what we're primarily driven by in New England, because most of the generation is natural gas driven. There hasn't been a big impact, much less of an impact than we would have expected. And that has to do with liquefied natural gas being exported out of this country, affects the natural gas prices here, and there's an appetite for LNG in Europe and Asia that you would have thought would have been a bigger impact. So, that speculation always plays a part in the volatility. And I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, there hasn't been a lot of, it's been more volatile than stable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we all see it on the news, 10 years ago, most people really didn't pay too much attention, right? The utility prices were lower, everything was lower, and now it's been in the news so much in the last couple of years because we did a couple of, rough winters, and it's just much more in the minds of all the energy users. Utility on the delivery side, prices have gone up.
Yeah, I think the challenge for us that we realized is, before community power, residents, if they didn't like it, they could go and actively seek out a new supplier pretty much within a month time frame. We can't act that quickly, and so they see their bill differently, and they can't do anything about it because of the structure. Notionally, we're able to find it cheaper than what they would do as an individual. So I guess as far as like for us, and I don't know, Joe, you have like a rough number of like how many users we have right now, consumers on the clean power. But as far as like our pricing power, how does that compare? And do you think we would be in a position to get favorable rates, or are we kind of undersized? Like how would you see us as like a user, what our pricing power would be?
Yeah, you would have enough purchasing power on your own in the town of Newmarket, just based on population and estimated usage that we put in there. I think you guys are a little over 9,000 people in population here. So, in terms of getting competitive supply rates, the benefits of purchasing power kind of dwindle away after about 10 million kilowatts a year. And you guys are using more than that, based on our estimations. So you'd have plenty of purchasing power on your own, separate from like a joint powers purchasing. And maybe to answer your question from before, or maybe find the answer, is in the warrant article, whenever that was voted on for the town of Newmarket. Might tell you who can authorize those contracts and agreements, basically who's authorized to administer the program for the town.
Yeah, I think it was us as advisory to town council for contract changes, right?
Yeah, the town manager is actually the executive for community power. He's the one that can actually authorize it.
Yep.
I'm the primary representative, so I've been pretty much doing most of that.
So,
Gotcha.
if they came back after a month and said, hey, this great deal has come up, do you want to renegotiate something? The town manager would be able to act on that without setting it.
No, basically all he can say is, okay, what we want for a default, or if we want to have like 50% as our default. He can also add an adder fee to it. But if he wants to withdraw from the program, then that's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what.
That's where we are right now. Okay.
I guess if we go down this route, I wonder if it's worth talking about that at town council, if that's something that we want to revisit and trying to amend that to give the town more flexibility to take advantage of stuff like that. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck to basically approving these contracts through town council in whatever frequency makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, we can talk about it more, but my thinking is that we have a finance director, and he's been pretty good at getting electricity for the town. He's done an incredible job, and that we would probably, whatever we end up choosing or whatever, we would probably work with the town finance director and the town manager, and have him be responsible for this going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I guess if that's something that has to change, be amended or put out for warrant article or whatever, I think it's something worth considering to give the town the flexibility to manage it. I think more in line with like an average consumer.
I don't know whether we would have to. We have a joint power agreement that says how the program's going to be governed and and executed. I don't know whether we would have to. Yeah, that would take a warrant article or whatever to reapprove a amended. Well, no, the town council can amend the JPA. Okay, to get a whole new one or whatever. I would think that would be a warrant article.
There's something worth considering because it's like we're trying to find the flexibility as a town to like negotiate on terms that are favorable to us, without like taking too long of a time. So that's all. I don't know how it all exactly works.
You might already have that set up as well. It could be, I know you're mentioning the JPA. If you're moving forward with us, it wouldn't be a JPA in this case. You have Newmarket's aggregation plan. So that's what's actually been submitted to the PUC when you initially launched. That has all your guidelines as to how Newmarket is running their aggregation.
I misquoted. I meant our aggregation plan.
Yeah.
Newmarket has an electric aggregation
Okay.
plan.
I
That's what
thought you were
meant.
mentioning that because
Yeah.
I was like, JPA, that's not the one.
Yeah.
You don't want to amend that. In terms of suppliers too, we were talking a lot about risk. The other way that this protects you is on that next contract. So like CPC&H, I know they've had 2 winters now where they had an $8.5 million loss and an $8 million loss this past winter. You're protected with that through our program because same example we were following before. You do enter into a year contract February to February and say that supplier lost their shirt. They didn't make any money, they want to gain it back, right? On the next contract, we're going to get some more money back. Well, they can try to do that and they can raise their price, but they'll just go to the bottom of the bid stack because we'll have other suppliers that can step up with a legitimate price that don't have those recency biases. So that next contract isn't, you're not stuck with that supplier's losses and having to make up for them.
So if we have if Newmarket has a 3-year contract, you can switch suppliers midway, even though we don't have anything to do with it?
Not in the middle of a contract,
Not
no.
in the middle of it.
No, if you're entering into an agreement with a supplier, then that
That's
rate would
one
be
for the whole thing.
like for the whole, right, exactly. If it's a
Okay.
3-year contract, the rate would be available for the full 3 years.
But with one supplier.
With that one supplier at that time, yep.
Got it.
But then when we won't go out for bid for the next contract, then we have 3 or 4 suppliers again, including the same supplier that still owns the contract.
Yeah.
And they can choose to bid, and they lost money, it doesn't really matter because we'll have other bids to replace them.
It's always a competitive bid.
Yeah.
So, but none of us would actually know if, let's say, supplier A had the first contract for a year. None of us would know whether they did well or not on that contract, right? Because that information's not going to get filtered back to us, other than maybe to go back out to bid, and we use all 4 suppliers for the bid, which we would do as standard procedure. Their price comes in much higher, as Nick said, they go to the bottom of the bid stack. That might be an indication that
Because they're trying to make up.
they're trying to make up, and then, okay, well, you're not going to be able to make it up, we're just going to go to the next
Yeah.
lowest bid. But that's,
Yeah, that's the benefit of having
Yeah.
multiple suppliers.
but in reality, when prices come back from suppliers, we're talking prices in the 10 to 11 cent per kilowatt hour range. Those prices from all the suppliers usually come back within 2 or 3 tenths of a cent.
Wow,
They're that close.
wow.
That's pretty normal. When you see prices come back that are 5 or 6 tenths of a cent difference between suppliers, that's pretty odd.
No, at least it sounds like you'd actually be able to take advantage of the market through that. Whereas
Yeah.
now there's no market. Really, we're just acting as an aggregate consumer. But that's fine. We're just a larger consumer for
Right.
benefits of that.
Right.
And they're all pricing it independently. They don't know what one doesn't know what the other one's doing. It is amazing if they come back that close.
Yeah, it means they're doing their job well, I
Yeah.
think.
And remember, they're trying to remain competitive, right? They're trying to price it so that they make some money,
Yeah.
but not outbid themselves out of the market. And that's probably what compresses everything, those prices being that close.
Wow.
You know why community power is limited to one supplier? Is it just they're a much younger, newer participant?
You mean the CPC&H?
Yeah, sorry.
As to why they only chose one supplier, I don't know the answer to that. Joe might know.
Again, they go through Calpine, but they contract generally with one supplier, Eisenhower in England. Okay, but they do have Calpine. They do give Calpine the opportunity or the ability to negotiate with multiple suppliers. Generally, they go through just Eisenhower. I think there's additional fees if they go with multiple suppliers.
Oh, interesting.
Outside of California.
Yeah, outside of
Okay. Yeah, I think that's just the way they designed the program, right?
And theirs is also different too. It's not fully fixed, like what we're talking about as well.
Yeah, on that point, I just wanted to clarify, if we enter a 6-month or 2-year contract with Freedom, that price is fixed for the entire term. There's no like escalator annually or anything like that.
That's correct. Yeah, any supplier contract or agreement that you choose, whatever that rate is for the term that they provided, that's good for the length of that term. Everyone in Newmarket could opt out of the program, and the rate would still be good for that term. The next contract wouldn't look so good.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have anybody, but you know, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you go back out for that next bid, you know, the suppliers see the number of
Right.
customers.
Unlikely to happen,
that
but,
out, and
yeah.
that's- you haven't regained that buying power by having the program.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned this earlier, that there's no penalty for the individual per state law can opt out at any point, right? And
Right.
So even though we've entered a contract on their behalf with the supplier, like, if they opted out, we can't do anything about it. It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
anything on it. Granted, the supplier isn't supplying your electricity anymore, so they don't have that cost, so I guess it kind of washes out in that sense until the next contract term, like you said. Okay.
And they can come and go as they please, because that's the other thing with the savings. You know, it's not guaranteed. The utilities change in every 6 months. Their price is always going to change. Therefore, if you entered into a 2-year contract, you can't guarantee that you're going to save money throughout that 2 years, because we can't fast forward ahead and know what the utility price will be every 6 months. So there could be a rate cycle mixed into a 2-year contract where you're actually above the utility. But in that instance, they can opt out. They can simply opt back in whenever they would choose to. It's all based on the meter read, but they have 12 opportunities to opt out or opt in
No, that's good for like
each month.
Because that for us, like, it's a matter of like doing best by the residents. Like,
Yeah.
essentially, like, what's the cheapest option, right? Giving them the flexibility. We don't want to take away their freedom to find something else.
Mhm.
And so that's good that they're able to kind of come and go, but still leveraging the town and able to find them a better price. But we've already experienced the whole rate cycle shifting and kind of going upside down on us, so
Yeah.
we're kind of already dealt with that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, for the record, this past winter that we just had was one of the most volatile I've seen in 18 years. We got a couple that go back 10 years. The prior winter was really volatile, but this one had some other cost components that ICE had implemented that were through the roof. And it was just, the weather was cold, energy prices were through the roof, and everything was crazy.
Will you go directly to the suppliers? You're not impacted by day-ahead markets or anything like that? With DASI, does that impact anything?
So everyone is affected by that. Yes.
That's what I was
Yeah.
talking about, that one cost component that was implemented by
Yeah.
ISO.
If that hits you further with the
Well,
next
I
contract?
mean, it hit the suppliers immediately.
Mhm.
So when ISO designed that program, they did a 2-year study. This goes back 4 or 5 years now, the period that they did the study for. And they estimated that price for Daisy was going to be a 10th of a cent per kilowatt hour over a 12-month period, March of last year to February of this year. It came in at a penny. So they estimated that cost to be, I think it was $104 million, the initial estimate. It came in at like 1.1 billion.
Yeah.
So it was 10 times the cost. January alone, you know, we talk about energy prices that are on the futures market, 6 or 7 cents for the energy, which would be the biggest component of the price of the cost of make up the price. Daisy alone came in January at 4 cents a kilowatt hour. So 40 times higher than what they estimated in 12 hours. So, you know, I mean, there were reasons why ISO implemented that, and just the study didn't work out very well. So they've got 3 reforms that they're looking at now to implement. We'll start to get some news in that in the next 3 or 4 months as to what impact that's going to have, but I'm not keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't get to where it did last winter.
Is the minimum contract 6 months? And does it run the same cycle as Eversource and everybody else?
No, it doesn't have to be the minimum, but usually going anything less than 6 months doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just such a short term, you're just like immediately shopping right afterwards.
And do they run the same term as Eversource on 6 month increments? Like Eversource goes February to August or whatever. Right? And then do your cycles go the same as theirs? So in other words, what I'm thinking, can we wait to see, okay, here's what Eversource is saying it's going to be for the next 6 months, and then we go into a contract with you for 6 months, and we're always like a month after what Eversource had for a price. And
That strategy can work. The only thing that you're missing out on is the opportunities of the futures market to lock in an opportunity. So in other words, if you're in a 1 year contract until February, and in 2 months we see, 2 months into the contract, we see an opportunity to buy, you're not going to wait until that next utility cycle gets there towards the end of that contract. You'll want to lock up that opportunity now for the end of that contract, so you keep building on the stability and the savings.
The safeguard, though, I think to your point, is that the customers have the option to opt out at any time, right? So, if the contract starts in the middle of the cycle, let's say it's a 1 year contract, and then 4 months later the Eversource rate changes, let's say it drops below the contracted rate, then you just opt out. Go back to the utility.
our experience has been generally that, unless there's a story on WMUR or something like that about, electric rates or whatever, people don't really, look at opting out or whatever. Our attrition rates are very, very low, and then, MUR did a story and then they went up. And,
I think, maybe in the past couple of years, people are a little bit more aware of what's going on, because the energy use just seems to be everywhere now. But you're absolutely right. Going back not that far back, people were like, until they really use it. They never looked at it and they saw it use. So the hope is that there's a little bit more awareness now than there used to be.
Can you talk a little bit, you guys have been around 20 years, talk a little bit about your rates compared to utilities, and, how's your track record been? Like this being
In terms of CCA, with these rates here. So,
over 20 years. Can you go back to that?
well, we could, but CCA was only here since 2023. So unfortunately, we can't go back that far. However, Londonderry, they were one of the first towns that were due to start a CCA program, and we were with them for 2 years. 2 years before they actually launched. And the reason for that is there was changing in town council, so there's a lot of some people going and not staying. So the proponents for the program were there, and then they left, and then it was one of those things, kind of a lot of back and forth.
We're fluctuating as well.
But in terms of timing and rates, so what you see here for the town of Salem, this was before the Iran conflict or war was going on. So we were actually able to secure a great rate, 11.18 cents for them for over 2 years. So I'm loving it because I'm in Salem now, and our rate to compare with Liberty Utilities is very high. So we're started at 12.42 for the first few months of the contract, and then for this current rate cycle, we're actually at 13.735. So we're over 2.5 pennies less than the utility currently now, which is what I mentioned before. We're saved collectively close to $4 million for the town of Salem. Fast forward to the Iran war is happening, and we're getting pricing for Londonderry, Merrimack, Laconia, and Wyndham. The short-term pricing, there was a much better benefit there of locking into a short-term contract to be able to launch with a great initial savings, and then start shopping for the next contract after that. So that's why you'll see the Londonderry, Merrimack, and Laconia, they all started in April of this year for 7 months, And for Wyndham, they started in May of this year for 6 months. So all their contracts are due to come up in November, and we're already having conversations with them for next pricing, next contracts moving forward.
If you were to do it, or to have done a 2-year program or contract with either of the bottom two, Londonderry or Merrimack, do you know, like, or can you share what the rate would have been?
Oh, from back then? Oh, I don't remember.
Would it have been, I mean, directionally, like 11 cents would have been higher or low? Like, you said you got like a pretty good deal for the short term.
We were shopping those back in
Yeah, I don't
March.
remember.
I don't remember what the rates were that we got for them back then.
They would have
It's
been
a-
higher, but that was part of the reason for choosing the short-term rate.
Yeah.
Just because of where the futures were trading at. So when you, like an April start, if we had gone from April 2026 in the case of Londonderry to April of 2027, instead of ending in November, we would have picked up December, January, and February, which trade much higher
Yep.
than on the futures market on the shoulder month street. So they would have bumped that average up. So that was part of the reason for going with a shorter term rate, to try to get something down below the utility so we could launch the program.
Yeah, it's just a bit counterintuitive to see a lower rate coming out of an April 26 contract compared to November 25, given the market conditions you described. But
Yeah.
the shorter term period makes sense.
That's the ever-changing market.
Yeah.
Every day is a new price. Usually it doesn't change by that much day by day, but
Yeah.
every day is a new price.
Are you already out putting out RFPs for July? Things that go into effect July? Contracts that go into effect in July?
No, so for who you're seeing here, we're actually already shopping Salem as well for November of 2027, but all of the contracts that you'll see on here actually are all due up in November of 26, with the exception of Salem. November of 27 for Salem.
Well, this says July, so
Well, that's
That was
the
just
Eversource.
Eversource.
Oh yeah, that's just the rates compare for Eversource.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, so their contract is going beyond the July rate for Eversource, say for Londonderry.
November.
Correct. Yep.
Recycling.
Yeah, we just don't know what the rate to compare is yet because they haven't announced it. We'll probably see that June, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's.
No, we see what Eversource is going to
Maybe-
submit to the PUC, and then July we'll probably know what the
July.
PUC.
They vary.
approves.
Usually it's a somewhere.
The end of June, I think, is when they
end of June,
announce
beginning
it.
of July. Yeah.
What
I've
the
seen
new
it a
rates are
little
gonna
bit
be.
earlier than that before, but not very often.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little more to how you're able to price pretty substantially below Eversource's supply rate?
You got it for the suppliers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so part of it again is the term of that contract, right? You're going back to excluding those winter months.
Yeah.
And then, as Nick said, the market's changing every day, so you're looking at a contract being priced, say in March when you did to the town of Londonderry, when the Eversource contract started back in August, right? When they go out for contract, so the timing,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a few days can make a difference, but several months can make a huge difference. So, in between when we contracted the rate and when Eversource went out for supply contracts, because they're basically doing the same thing, they're just going out for suppliers
Right.
to obtain competitive rates. And most of that is in the timing when the contract was done, Eversource versus when we started to contract, and the length of the term. So you'll see, it's really hard to say, but all else being equal in the world, everything perfect, the Eversource rate for the February to August cycle theoretically would be lower than the August to February cycle, because that cycle picks up January, which is
Close month.
always mostly
Yeah,
the
the
highest
winter
price
cycle.
month
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
out of the 12 months of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like you go to Costco, right? Or buying direct, or kind of cut through some of that other source, the big company. And also, isn't there default rate regulated through? There's like something with the pricing that they have to do.
Well, we have to they have to go to the PUC to get their rates approved.
Yeah, whereas regions,
Right.
oh, great, that's a great price, we'll do
Right.
it. No regulatory
Yeah,
body
because
over here.
the retail suppliers aren't regulated by the PUCs, but, you know, back before deregulation, say 1999, 2000, when the electricity was not regulated, all the utilities owned their own generation. You know, PSNH at the time, owned Seabrook and other generators, Newington, the Bow Power Plant, you know, the coal-fired plants and whatnot, and then deregulation required them to divest of all that, so now they just, they go to the open market for pricing. They're doing no different, they're just going to the new suppliers.
I have another question. Oh, Joe, do you
No.
hog the airtime? More of a broad market-related question. How you view CCAs in general impacting the distribution side of the bill, which, as we all know, makes up the majority of the bill now, and is probably been growing faster, right? I think than the supply side. I might be wrong there, but generally it's more painful, and like we're paying EverSource for that regardless. Is there, or do you have a view on like how CCAs will impact that portion of the bill going forward?
Unfortunately, they can't. The only thing that can actually be affected is the commodity, which is the supply.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like EverSource, all of those delivery and transmission charges, that's actually where they're making their money. On the supply portion, which is why you don't see any like lesser service if you're going third-party supply and leaving them, it's because you're not taking any money out of their pocket. By state law, they're not allowed to make money on the supply portion of your bill. So, unfortunately, there's nothing that CCA right now can do with distribution or transmission charges. That's all really between EverSource and the PUC.
Yeah.
Yeah, the delivery charges that you're seeing have gone up substantially, and all the utilities in New England are different. Some of them are much higher than what we're seeing here in EverSource and I mean, I think basically we have an aging infrastructure that at some point has to be upgraded. So I know EverSource, the last 4 or 5 years, we did all their other transformer stations on the distribution side of it, upgraded that. You know, it all costs money. Every time there's a power outage, I don't know the percentages, but the majority of the time it's due to downlings or something, right? And so they've been spending more money on taking care of that part of the infrastructure. But just in general, the entire country, you read enough about it, right? We just have an aging infrastructure.
Yeah.
At some point it's going to catch up to us. So, yeah, on the supply side, you know, as Nick said, the utilities don't and cannot make any profit on the supply part of it. They just go up with maybe to pass that cost on directly to the end users. There's no profit or loss to them on the supply side. So everything on the delivery side of the distribution is, that's where they can make their profit, but they do have to get approval from the PUC every time they make a rate change on the delivery side and the supply side.
Yeah, part of the reason I asked that question is I've heard, I don't know how true it is, that residential solar, like rooftop solar, behind the meter, whatever, is eating into EverSource's like profits and revenue, right? Because you're no longer paying for supply. In fact, they have to pay through net metering programs for some of that, right? So I thought, or I've heard that they make up for it via increased deliveries, right?
They
Yeah.
can't flip sides from the supply to the distribution.
Okay.
So I think what you're referring to is if somebody has solar on the rooftop and a little bit of excess generation, the utility pays them, they're required to pay them the utility default rate for that excess generation. And I guess theoretically you could argue that it's just getting sold into the market. Right? So EverSource might be paying that every user that has a solar at a higher rate than what they're actually being compensated for. But they could put that over the distribution side.
Okay.
They have to keep that on the supply side. It might affect the default rate if you go back out and you have to reconcile costs. which is what we might expect to see now that we've gone through this winter, because a certain portion of the road is based on the market price, and at some point we have to touch that up and we call it supply rate, or we can affect the delivery side. Yeah, I know, there's been a lot of confusion about the solar behind the movie and next generation.
Thanks.
Have the ability to serve net metered customers? Because
So-
CBCNH does not, so that
Yeah,
would
with
be.
CCA, we would not
Okay.
be including any solar net metering customers, as well as any customers that are on third-party supply. The reason for that is there's no avenue for a third-party supplier to get reimbursed for those additional renewable credits, and therefore paying them back. It's, whoever the net metering customer is. So it's just best that they stay out of the program so they can actually receive their renewable credits.
There's just no mechanism for the third-party suppliers
To do that?
to compensate someone that has solar for their excess generation. There's no ability to do it. And there might be somewhere down the road. Yeah, we highly, I think we highly recommend that anything that has solar, well, they wouldn't be included in the program to begin with because they would be excluded at the beginning.
Yeah.
They can opt in if they wanted to, but, we highly recommend that they don't because the amount of money they're going to save through the CCA program is probably not going to be enough to offset the credits that they're getting. Yeah, everybody's different, that's why everybody has to look at it individually, but they would be excluded from being included, I don't want to say opt-in, included at the beginning of the program. The same thing with a third-party supplier, we don't want to interrupt somebody's contract if they.
Do you guys have any questions? Okay, this is a good time to talk about next steps. What would we need to do if we were to talk with our town manager and talk with our finance director? The town is looking at renewing on the town side their contract right now, and they have an incredible contract right now. I don't know, I think it's 9 cents? 9.8 cents, and it's almost 50% clean energy. Okay. So I don't know. One of the things we might consider is tagging on with that particular supplier. Okay. But if we were to go, say, we want to do this in February, we want to talk about next steps. What we would have to do. What happens?
Yeah, sure. These were just kind of some basic steps that I laid out there. But as I mentioned, we probably would, if you want us there to present to town council, we can be available to present and kind of go over everything that we've actually discussed here today, and to get approval to review our consulting agreement, to then decide whether or not you want to move forward with Freedom and start the process of exiting CPC&H.
Can you briefly touch upon what is the consulting agreement, what's it cover, and what are the fees? Are there fees associated with that?
No, the only fee that's associated with the CCA program with us is the fee that I mentioned before. So in this case, 2/10 of a penny that would be added on
To the rate. So
There's
it's
no
everything's
actual-
in the rate there. Okay, there's
Right.
no additional surprise fees.
No.
Deal of delivery of anything.
very,
like-
very straightforward contract. I'm happy to share it with you. I'll send it over.
Could you? I guess I would
Review
like to have attorney look at it too.
Yeah, we don't get paid to Nick's point, and a couple of the towns that we've been working with for a couple of years before they actually launched the program, we don't get paid anything or collect any fees. So, let's say you signed the contract today, right? And a 3-year contract with Freedom Energy, and a 2-year period went by where we didn't launch the program because of whatever reason, rates weren't favorable or whatever. We don't get paid until we launch and then add that fee into the supply rate.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, yeah. State your name.
the insurance rate is currently at 12 cents. It's just like 10 cents and 12 cents.
Sure.
Would it be possible for Newmarket Community Power to accept that contract at charge and offer Newmarket Community Power customers a rate that is a little bit above that? And the reason I'm saying that is because if you generate a savings, I looked at the $4 million savings that we generated from Merrimack, whatever time it was, collectively. Capture a tiny portion of that, let's say, through that one additional cent, and capture, let's say, 350,000 in 1 year, we could then turn around and invest that into whatever energy generation or energy infrastructure that we wanted to invest here in town. So is that a mechanism that would be possible? Would is it possible? Is that something that has been done before that you're aware of?
It is, yeah. We actually jumped past it in that kind of check mark screen here. It's something that's offered to CPCs as well, but you can actually build a community fund.
Yes.
In our particular case, it would never get like to buy down rates. So for instance, you could add a 10% there. So for every town of fund, you can call it a local fund, an energy fund, whatever you choose it's yours. The money is coming in there to be used for the town, however they deem as necessary. And in case it would continue to go up, it wouldn't go back into the CCA program to buy down rates or that. You would just be raising money through
That
the
could be an energy
through the
fund,
rates.
you use it at your discretion, well, your discretion, you know.
Okay, so that's totally.
EV charging
Yes.
station, solar on the roof of, one of the town buildings or something.
Okay, anyways,
As a town, since you guys did.
the only thing with that, I get what you're saying, it would be nice to have, say, kind of stipulate against the city, but at the end of the day, that's money coming from the residents, right? So it is not a tax, obviously, that's not what it is, but you're essentially taking more money from the residents in their utility bill to then go to town stuff, so I'd be leery of like, it sounds great, and there may be, the residents may be okay with that, right, of taking some of this energy savings and diverting it, but I'd just be leery of how it's presented. So at the end of the day, you're just charging the residents more money. It's
to
a
go to projects.
communication question, but it's also, as you guys have pointed out, anybody can also help out. And so you don't have to utilize the program. And you could have a rider in the contract or whatever. You could like you'll only apply a tenth or whatever of a cent if the difference between the utility rate and our rate is X. Something like that. So you can, I think you can structure it.
It would have to be, the rate has to be below utility.
Right.
Yeah, I think
You're
like you said,
offering
it's
them a below utility rate option, right?
yeah.
So you're offering them a savings, you're just not offering them 100%.
No, I think that makes sense, and obviously town council I'm the town manager. It's just, I'd be leery of like the town manager saying, I'm going to go create a new fund out of the town residents, energy consumers to go.
So
That's just, not that I'm saying anybody's trying to go create a secret fund. It sounds great, but at the end of the day, gotta preserve, I think, we're trying to save our residents money at the end of the day, at least in this application. That's the whole point of going
But,
on.
okay, just to be clear, what we're talking about is, say, putting solar on the fire station so that we can run pumps in the wastewater treatment center. And so, the wastewater treatment center is paid for by Newmarket residents, right? They're buying all that electricity. So what we're saying is, let's give you an opportunity to spend less money on wastewater treatment.
No, I definitely agree. I think there's a charm of diverting some of that savings to then further save the town money, which further saves them in their tax bill.
Right.
So there is I definitely follow the logic on through that.
Yeah, because
I
the
just-
alternative is, if it's a good idea to do it, to run the pumps from solar, we would have a warrant article, right, which is a direct tax.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, whether it's a cent there in that fee or you the equivalent of a cent in your whatever your rate is, I just feel like I worry that people, if you don't communicate that well, will just go, well, the town is pulling more money out of me to do things, versus like, yeah, go around. That's all. I just try to.
Well, we're currently charging 2 cents more than Eversource.
That's true. Let's at least work on that. I'd love to work on it.
I just, you can do that, we can do that now, community power, we can add an adder fee, and have.
Yeah, but we only want to do it when it's.
I absolutely agree. But, just to be clear, if Newmarket were to have its own, fee, or whatever, we do an adder fee, people could potentially say, opt out of that adder fee product.
That would be
and
included
pick
in the rate.
another?
That would be included in the rate, just like our fee would be, so there wouldn't be
So we
rate
wouldn't have
with-
multiple rates?
with a fee and without a fee.
Yeah.
It would be, that would be the rate.
Oh,
Similar
I
to-
never even thought of that before, so he couldn't do it like the green adder, right? Like you choose the green adder and you choose the town fee.
We can certainly
Okay.
check. I would be surprised because it would be
Community power,
similar
we
to
could
the way.
potentially do that. We, like I say, we've never done that, we haven't done that because it's
Yeah,
a
you can check
additional
off
fee.
like, okay, I wanna do the town
Mm.
adder and.
You're kind of already doing it with Newmarket, at least according to what I saw. CPC&H did a work session with Portsmouth, City of Portsmouth.
Mhm.
They had a breakdown of what their rate actually is.
Mhm.
82% of it is actually going to energy supply. That's what of that 14.663 cent rate for Eversource, 82% of it is just with the rate alone. 14% of it is actually going to community reserves. That's those reserves that they've built up and depleted and built up and depleted, but 14% of that's over 2 pennies of your rate is currently going into the community reserves to build up CPC&H.
So
For Portsmouth, but is my understanding, it's the same rate. It's the same rate for all Eversource customers. So my assumption would be it'd be the same breakdown of 82, 14, and 4, and 4% is the OPEX. So when
You're saying you-
when you're factoring in the community reserves that they're charging that rate and the actual OPEX to run the program, 18% of that rate is for OPEX and community reserves. It's over 2.5 pennies of that 14.663. If you're choosing us, you're adding 0.2 of a penny. If you add a community fund for 1/10 of a penny, you're at 0.3 of a penny versus over 2.5 pennies.
So,
Just in like
as an example,
fees, I
Nashua
guess, is the way to
has
look
an
at
adder fee, and Peterborough does too, they do too. And so that's their default product for their residents, but they also, Community Power also offers the other products, Granite Basic, which is the 24% clean energy, and then there's, the 33%, 50%, whatever. So they have like 5 fees in Nashua and Petersburg.
Are you saying the individual residents can choose to whether they want to pay the?
Yes, they can. You can opt up or opt down. Correct.
For the town fee, probably, the national fee, not the green part.
They can also opt up to a greener thing. 33%, 50%, 100% clean energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Nashua has this. In addition to the basic product, which is 24%, the minimum. They have Nashua's product, which is also 24%, but it has that adder fee in it.
For green,
Okay.
additional green.
It's not, when you say additional green, it's the adder fee, okay, what they were
for the
talking about.
for the city of Nashville.
Yeah, so it's not an
Okay.
additional
Okay.
green
So it sounds
thing,
like
it's
They
just,
can
do
choose
that.
to elect to pay that or not.
correct.
Oh.
And so, would we be able to do the same thing?
I wouldn't see why not, but we should definitely, we'll confirm that.
Wow, this is the first time that's come up.
Yeah. Well, they're bringing it up.
Yeah.
Want to make
Well,
sure.
The added fee was always an option, but. the
That's always an
option to
option.
either
Option
select it
between-
or not.
include it or not include it, yeah.
discussion in any of the towns. It's interesting.
Well,
I don't
you,
think that would be I think that would be a problematic kind of decision to take. You either have a fee added and everybody pays it, you're getting a better price than you're getting through the utility. So you
Yep.
often to go for the supply that Green Energy has found for us. And it includes a, let's call it a matter fee or whatever. So the price that you're seeing is the lower price that you can contract for. There's not an additional option to not pay that added fee. That's part of the price. It's the pricing model that's being offered to the customer. We're just saying we're going to create a pricing model that includes an opportunity for the town to aggregate funds to invest in energy infrastructure. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, and to take that decision out and offer another price there, I think would be terribly unfair to those people that, why would you choose to do it then? Because your neighbors don't
because
have to pay for it.
there
Why am
are
I
some
paying?
people that say, hey, that's a tax, you're putting a tax on
Yeah.
me.
I
Well,
guess.
it's not a tax, it's just a price that you can choose to pay versus another price that you can choose to pay, which is the utility rate, which is the utility supply price, or some other third party that you can choose to contract with. So it's just the marketplace is what it is. We happen to be a player in the marketplace. That's kind of-
But then the people who are on Eversource aren't contributing to this wherever their money's going, right? They're simply not contributing to it.
But they're paying a higher rate
Yeah.
per kilowatt hour,
Yeah,
in theory.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
guess
to avoid taxes.
at the end of the day, it is definitely a novel question that town council will have to take up in a town council
Yeah, it's
meeting.
something the town would have, it would
Right.
not have anything to do with us.
Yeah, I just don't want to, while they're here, I don't want to debate. how we-
Yeah.
Cart before the horse, that's a few layers
Yeah.
down the road. The town council, I'm sure will have at it on that topic, but. Yeah, it's for us first, that's fine.
So I'm sorry, again, if we can kind of like walk through, okay, what would we need to do, what would happen, what are the steps for if we were to leave community power?
Yeah,
and
sure.
Go with somebody else.
Ultimately, the first steps that I've lined out are probably the biggest, starts to get over, or hurdles to get over, because you need to determine whether or not you're ready. To the town would help look at switching over in February, or if we would think that the following rate cycle would be the best. It really depends on the timing of those initial steps there.
We haven't discussed this we're an advisory committee to the town council, okay, and we really haven't discussed what we haven't discussed this and what we're going to propose to the town council, but my opinion is, and I can't really speak for everybody, but I think we would probably want to see, okay, the new rates are coming out in July, or end of June, July, we'll know what the new rates are going to be that go through January. So if they are significantly higher than Eversource, then that really kind of pushes us off to, okay, we have to do something. If they're less than Eversource, then it kind of takes the pressure off to, okay, we have to do something really quick. Okay, so I think we're going to really take a look at what the next rate is going to be.
Sure.
Your rate now is 13.
It's 14.
14.60.
We're like 2 cents higher than CPCNH, I think. I mean, than Eversource.
Yeah, Eversource.
11 something, 11.3.
Now, what you're saying is that if the Eversource rate goes to 16 cents, say, then
If,
You
yeah,
don't
if
know.
ever,
CPC
stays the same.
Yeah, I guess, I understand you're wanting to at least see what the next rate is. I think even if we were today right now, so let's start making moves to go this route, it's still going to be that we will know what the next rate is before, I would think we'd even get to a point of signing something. So, I mean, that aside, in terms of just like the timing, things will probably play out somewhat out. I do like the idea of us being able to work directly with a choice of vendors, because now we're able to play into the market, whereas now we're just beholden to one. We're a sole source like contract right now with Community Power of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Whereas going this route, we'd be able to actually source the market, which they'll probably, like you acknowledge, sometimes the rates will be, not in our favor, and that will be true of no matter who we go with. It will change over time, but I do like the ability of the town to actually use its aggregated pricing power here to find the best rate, especially if it's like the town manager, financial manager that's able to kind of do something out, not necessarily us trying to chase it every other committee meeting.
Okay, so yeah, if you could send me the consulting agreement, and I'll have our finance director and town manager and lawyer take a look at it and inform them that, we're considering moving on from community power, and this is something that might.
I didn't want to push for you to do that. It's more about doing your due diligence, right? You can take those steps without making any actions. You're really just reviewing the agreement, determining whether or not you want to do that moving forward, and then we see where we are when those decisions are made. We're definitely welcome, or I say welcome, you need to welcome us, but we're definitely open to coming up here and presenting to the town council as well, speaking and answering any questions, however, whatever is easiest for you.
Yeah, we could decide, like, if we're even ready to make our own recommendations, or you could talk to town council and see if it's something that you want to bring up and
Well,
I know you don't got a
the
forum.
reason they're here is because they want
Almost.
us to consider something different.
But I mean, yeah, depending on how town council feels, if they want us to make recommendations to them, or if they just want to kind of take it up and look at it themselves. I don't want to go against the structure of the advisory.
We are the advisory committee to the town council, so it's up to us to kind of do the diligent work and figure out and then make the recommendation to the town council, and then they may say something different, but I think everybody's kind of like on the same wavelength here, is that we have to look at our options here. Community power may not be the option that we want to stay with.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be consumers for ourselves, and be able to price things out.
Okay, so say we look at this agreement and we don't see anything, it's fine, we want to move away from community power. What else happens here?
Yeah, I mean, then it would be a process of starting to communicate with CPCNH and letting them know you want to leave before whatever that next rate cycle would be, and then we would discuss a timeline to look at pricing for whenever that may be, call it February if that's the case, to shop the pricing and come up with that exit strategy. We also want to have in order probably would be the JPA and the CSA with CPCNH. The public financing stuff that we're on is seems like there's no real avenue for any, like, if you're leaving. The only way for CPCNH to collect is to collect from members. In order to be a member, you have to be a part of a rate cycle. So that's the way that we're seeing it in the contract is laid out, and the way that it coincides with the state statute versus
Yeah, we would not leave. I don't see us leaving community power mid-cycle. We definitely give them, some kind of notice. Hey, we're not going to participate in the next. And community power is actually, they're out purchasing, doing hedge funding, 6 to 8 to 12 months ahead. So there may be an issue here.
Yeah, leaving mid-cycle is just complicates the process.
Yeah.
Actually,
guess the only factor in all of this is if by some reason you didn't want to go with us, but you also didn't want to go with CPCNH, and you wanted to go back to the utility, that is another option. You just have a 90-day window where you have to notify the utility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only other avenue in the whole equation.
Okay, is there anything that we didn't ask that you think we should, that we didn't talk about?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, I know I didn't talk much about those extra slides. I just put in there for more for reference because those check marks don't tell the full story on everything. But local control, I think, is kind of the name of the game with our thing. It's been one of the number one things that Merrimack, Londonderry, Laconia were saying. They were asked why, by their residents, why did they choose Freedom and not CPCNH? And it's really about control. They get to control their rates, they get to control the length of their contract, they get to decide whether or not they just want to get rid of the program without dealing with all the hassle of all these different agreements. It's just one consulting agreement, multiple suppliers, and choosing the best rate and moving forward. So, and choosing renewable, choosing the community fund, you have all that choice, whereas a lot of that choice is kind of taken away with a customized approach where it's kind of like one size fits all where you're at right now.
Did you hear what the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yep.
have it.
Yep.
We can share it.
I can give you a couple questions. The suppliers, are they all New England suppliers, or do they get their electricity from say, like the Midwest?
They're
Other
throughout
places?
the whole country.
It all comes from the
oh
same
yeah,
place.
yeah. It all it's all coming from the same place.
When
Really.
you say it all, I know that community power can get some really inexpensive, clean energy from the Midwest.
Well, for the additional
Yeah, for the recs and stuff like
renewable
that.
stuff. Yeah, I think they all vary on where they purchase the recs from. So you can get Texas wind recs,
Mm-hmm.
which are the least expensive in terms of renewable energy credits. 2 to 3/10% per kilowatt hour. But if you buy local solar recs generated in New England, it would be like 4 cents a kilowatt hour that you pay for that additional utility. So I think most of it's coming from Texas wind recs.
So the RFPs, if we were to say we want to offer a 50% clean product and a 100% clean product in addition to the default product, which may not have an adder fee in it. It's the RFP, the supplier, that's actually taking care of all the recs and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
they'll show us what
You guys don't deal anything with that.
Yeah, there may be a variation in the adder between suppliers for the green portion. 10% green from supplier A might be a little bit different price than 10% green from supplier B.
And you can't switch them out, can you? Or, in other words, Newmarket gets the clean energy, 50% clean energy from this supplier and RFP.
Unfortunately not. No.
There's one RFP
Yeah.
for all products.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do most of your customers go with? You said, I think, Wyndham did 5%, which is +5 over the RPS. Is that
The
right?
majority of them. So Wyndham, they decided to launch with an additional 5% renewable credits. They have 50% and they have 100% options as well. I think they have one person that opted into the 100%, and maybe one person that's opted into the 50%.
Not surprised.
So the percentages on how many people are getting into those higher renewable levels, it's not very high. It's usually in the single digits. The majority of the people are going for that maximized savings rate or the basic rate that has the standard renewable portfolio.
I think everyone would like to be able to see more renewable energy, but when it comes to cost, it's,
To their wallet.
Yeah, it's,
you know,
yeah.
it can be prohibitive.
Are your higher renewable options still lower than Eversource in some cases, or are they typically above Eversource? Rate?
Not than Eversource. You can go. No, I don't have Wyndham's rates up there, but I know that the 100% rate for renewables with Wyndham is actually below Liberty's rate. So they have Wyndham's actually served by Eversource and Liberty. So we actually, it's below Liberty's rate to compare. So
Yeah.
they can effectively choose the 100% renewable and still be paying less than utility if they were a Liberty
So
customer.
it wasn't necessarily below the Eversource rate?
It wasn't below the Eversource rate, no.
I think when I first joined the committee and moved to Newmarket, our 50% was below Eversource's rate, or at least
Yeah,
a few of the.
I have that stuff. Right now they're higher.
But yeah, that's certainly
First
not even
launch.
close now. Yeah.
The 50% is actually below Eversource, I believe, because I think it goes to 10,606, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
An alternative way to look at it is how we like, maybe we do a blanket 25.3%, and then we get additional fees with your, implementing solar projects, within the town. Public for everybody gets solar.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think it's comes down to a communication thing because not everyone in the town will love that idea.
But they're a lot cheaper rate.
That's true.
The only is, yes, we only do it if it's below utility.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if they're offering them below utility rates, that has to be done.
This is great. This is great.
We are almost coming up to the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll probably skip the rest of the agenda. or
So
please do it again.
I appreciate you guys coming. If you could send us that, what I think our next steps are is we would like to, have the town manager and our lawyer take a look at that. And I think we need to do some more discussing. One of the things we do want to do is we want to get back together with our town's finance director and his particular contracts that he has are coming up, I think, in November. Okay, and so that's one of the other ones that we may consider going with. And like I say, we want to see what the next rate is going to be with Community Power versus Eversource, and if there's a significant difference, there's going to be a lot of pressure on us to do something quickly. If they're very close, then I think the pressure is off to do something quickly. But again, our responsibility is to people in Newmarket, and we want to do what's cheapest, basically.
Yeah, if the Eversource rate goes up significantly beginning of August, obviously it lends itself to the fact that, okay, these programs,
The expectation is that Eversource has undercollected the last two cycles, and that with this upcoming cycle, they're going to try to recover some of that money. So
Might get kicked to
the community power hope is that they're going to come in under Eversource.
it's a catch-22, right? And money, in this case, you want the Eversource rate to go up, right? Because it justifies.
Exactly.
On the other hand, all the other rate payers are like, no, I don't want the rate to go up. So it's a tough one. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where we are. I do appreciate you guys coming out and doing this.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot tonight.
Hopefully we didn't confuse you.
No, actually, I learned a
And we can
significant.
be available virtually as well, so if you want to get us on with your town manager and everything, you don't always have to come here for a meeting, we can do it virtually, so.
Yeah, I think, like I say, next step is talk among ourselves, and I do want to get with our finance director guy, and
Of course.
that's the next one too.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Great to meet everybody.
Appreciate you coming.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Joe, I say we skip community power update for today unless you have anything pressing.
Just quickly, community power. Just some updated stats. Okay, so these are as of the end of April. Where are we? At the end of May, right? Yeah. So this was as the end of April. Back in March, they sent out a refresh. 767 letters went out to Newmarket residents saying, hey, you're currently on Eversource. You're a new customer to Eversource. We're switching you over to community power. So we went from 58% in March to now 70% of electric meters in Newmarket are on community power.
That's mostly driven by auto opt-ins, right?
Yes, that's the That's correct,
increase?
that's the auto opt-in. In March, when that WWR story came out about community power and whatever, we had a significant number of opt-outs. There were 75 opt-outs. That's now down to 17.
75 out of 3,300 is, or 3,400, I guess technically, is not that bad.
So the significant thing is, out of the 767 letters that went out, so 750 went with Newmarket Community Power, 17 opted out. So,
Well, if they figure out that they're paying 2 to 3 cents more per kilowatt hour, they might.
yes, over the next couple of months, maybe. Community Power comes out with their, the end of June. They'll know what the rates for. Thanks, guys.
Thank you both. Yep.
The end of June, Eversource announces their rates and Community Power announces their rates. The hope with Community Power is right now that Eversource is going to have to increase their rates because they've undercollected the last couple of months, last couple of cycles. And that, and, you know, we have discussed this as a group, but I think I speak for all of us in that if the Community Power rate is close to Eversource, it takes the pressure off of us to do something. I know these guys want us to do something. Okay.
I mean, I'm on board with them. With that.
Yeah.
Definitely the urgency changes slightly in that, 'cause I think after the two rate cycles where we were paying higher than Eversource, I think that put the thumb on us to, as a committee, to the best interest.
Exactly. So, so the hope is that the rates will be closer and maybe even cheaper than Eversource. If they're not cheaper than Eversource and they're significantly higher than Eversource, because Community Power is still like $8 million in the hole right now that they're trying to make up. So
There's risk that Eversource can base that cost into the delivery, right? Which means
technically
it
they
doesn't.
can't. Theoretically, they're not supposed to do that.
Okay.
That the supply is separate from the delivery. They have to justify what their costs are for the delivery side. Okay. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's possible they can just take a hit to a profit and wait it out, and wait till a more favorable time to raise rates.
And and the Public Utilities Commission recently ruled that they can only collect, the under collections that they have, they can only recover the money from their customers. They can't spread that out to Newmarket Community Power customers and others.
Yeah.
They can only collect it from their
So
supply.
when we find the rates, is that like July 1st we'll find the rates, or July 31st?
In July they'll announce rates that become effective in August. The current rate ends in
So that'd be
July.
like the beginning of July, we know?
Well, yeah, beginning of July we should know what the rates are going to be.
So we definitely, so our July meeting is probably not our June meeting.
Correct. Our July meeting will know.
Okay.
So that's all I got for Community Power at this point.
Great. Thank you. Any immediate updates on the feasibility studies or anything? I didn't think so, but okay, perfect. Thank you. I put this on the agenda. We'll postpone, but backyard bash planning. I just wanted to get ahead of that. I know we'd like to have a booth. I think again for that. I think it's in August, and so we'll just start thinking about that. I know you are always involved with that. So
You have to fill out an application with Amy, right? If you want to do something.
oh,
We're going to be a vendor.
okay. Yeah. No. I guess it's good I'm bringing it up because so you handled all that last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll just reach out to Amy to get an application.
Okay.
Yeah. And everyone's on board with us. I mean,
Yeah.
having a booth. Okay. All right. Perfect. I'll get that started. Minor updates on Trex. The library is the only one that has been filling up quickly with the plastic bags. We've got 26 pounds collected so far out of 250. We were kind of unfortunate that we didn't really start until midway through the quarter, and the way their program works is that for every 250 pounds you collect in the calendar quarter, you are entered into a drawing for the bench or whatever it ends up being. So pretty low probability that we'll get it this quarter, and all these we
So,
honestly,
hey,
I
we're
could,
still doing good.
yeah,
That's a lot of pounds of plastic bags. Plastic bags weigh like nothing.
I know, yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah.
right.
I was tempted to just hoard them in my basement and just like bring them all like on July 1st, but I haven't, so.
So when does the quarter end? Is it the?
I guess
is it
June
end of
30th.
June?
Yeah. So yeah, it started April 1st.
Calendar quarter.
Yeah, yeah. So like because we really didn't kick off the program and make our first delivery until like mid-May, we're like literally halfway through the quarter. So, that's okay. We're still doing. I think there's more to come on this. Like obviously collecting the bags is great, but like my goal is to raise more awareness for like reducing single-use plastic usage and.
Yeah.
Do you have all the clear bags?
Yes.
Okay, can you bring that in next?
I sure
or
will.
Whatever, or.
That was what I intended. That was part of what I intended to bring in tonight. So I could bring those.
Actually, if I can catch up with you, what I'll do is I don't want to go to the school. Maybe we'll take a couple of them and stick them in the bottom of each of the collection bins that we have. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be some at the library.
At the high
yeah.
school, at the library, we already did that. And so the other ones at the high school,
And the rec center. That's where the 3
And the
official
rec
bins
center,
are.
I was just there today.
I haven't heard from. I checked with David, I think, at the school last week. I haven't heard from him, so assume that one's not full. Not so sure about the rec center.
okay, but I can definitely get them to you, but I don't mind doing it, I don't mind doing it as well, like putting it,
Yeah, I'll text you tomorrow or whatever.
Okay,
maybe
that
look up
sounds good.
something.
Perfect. And then I did want to ask, just because there's supposed to be a bin here too, but I know, is there?
There isn't yet.
Yeah.
We're going to take one of the school ones
When
got out.
school's done. Perfect. Okay, which is mid-June, I think, right? Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so I'll do my best. Maybe send another message out on Facebook to try
And
and.
you brought it to Hannaford or something?
There's multiple
I
locations.
brought one to Shaw's.
yeah.
I don't think that was.
I'm happy to deal with that if you want. If it's
No,
easier,
I don't
yeah.
mind doing that. It's just, do we have, what's the story? Do we have to make arrangements with them or tell them?
So
something?
I'll let you speak to what your experience, but for me, I just first went into Market Basket, went to like the customer service thing and just said, hey, I have plastic bags to deliver. It's too much for like the bin up front. And they're like, yeah, sure. And they called someone on the back, and they're on the back and they're just like, just drive around and meet us at the loading dock. And I
That's
just handed-
exactly what happened to
Yeah.
me. The assistant manager or somebody was there at the service desk and said, hey, I'll meet you. He said to me, I'll meet you out back. I'll show you where to put it.
Yeah.
So I just drove around out back and put
And
it
you-
in this.
Oh, they had you actually put it in the bin?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I just handed it to a woman and she brought it in the building. So, but I mean, it depends on the location.
And we weigh them. I got one of the scales. We weigh them and just tell you, you're keeping the spreadsheet. Right?
Yep. So, yeah, just get the weight and take a picture, I guess, of some, I don't know, there's no guidance on what the picture should be, so.
I know, I didn't have me in it. I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
one's not as good as Scott's.
It should just
Because
be-
my smiling face
Yeah.
isn't in it.
It should be, does it have to be a picture of the scale weighing it? or just,
I had my wife take a picture of me holding the bag, the scale and the bag up, but yours was perfectly fine. Like,
I put it on the bathroom
whatever's easiest,
scale,
yeah.
and then I removed it, and it's still digital for a few seconds. So then I took the picture right after I moved it. You know how the weight stays on it for a couple seconds? It worked, right?
Yeah,
And then I took a picture of the big bag also.
I assume they're not that strict. They see the bag of plastic. But yeah. Yeah, if you have questions, or I'm happy to handle it too, so it's easy. I don't have anything else on this, so.
Well, two things. Next meeting, and then I just want to
sorry,
talk
yeah.
briefly about, do you want to do the next meeting, Phil?
Yeah, sorry, I meant I didn't have anything else on like the Trex program, but yeah, our next meeting is scheduled for June 24th. Assuming that
Well, that sounds good, except I'll be on Cape Cod. So if you guys want to zoom me in, I'll zoom in. I'll zoom in with the beach in the background. Not a problem.
no, we don't want to interrupt beach time.
No, seriously, it won't be a problem if you guys ever want to like zoom me in order to get enough people to.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking like, like, on my way here, it was like such a nice night. Like, maybe we skip a month, but maybe we could move it to like early July. If that might be tough too. With
Do you know
no, I was just
backyard bash planning?
oh yeah,
It's in August, so
yeah, that's fair. Okay,
we should have at least one meeting
before then,
August, right?
yeah. The reason.
Yeah, I would like to, if anything comes up the discussions with like the financial planner about any of this stuff. Or
Okay.
if there's like any other companies that do what they do that people come across.
Yeah, so that's the next thing that I wanted to talk about, just
Okay.
to make sure what our next steps are.
All right, let's stick with June 24th. We have at least 3 members missing, so maybe I'll shoot an email out, and if they also can't join, maybe we'll try to find a different time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we just, I'll say I've been doing a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't do, I don't know, without consulting you guys. So one of the things I was thinking, we had that presentation with Bill, the finance director, was down here talking about the contracts that he has. I think if we move away from community power, what I think would be best is that whatever contract that he does, we talk with Bill and say, the contract that you do, can you also include Newmarket Community Power as part of, this necessary supply that contractor has to do. And so we go through Bill to, get our supply.
Bill's
basically.
supplier would become the new Newmarket.
Yes. But we talk with
CPC.
Bill and say, hey, Freedom Energy may be able to do something for you. We give that to Bill as well, if Bill isn't already.
Bill is
talking with
already aware of Freedom Energy. They've reached out to him, and
He
he was
is?
one of the options that he considered with the contract choice. I think he's been working with CES, I forget what
Yeah,
it stands for, but
seems-
he's been working with Larry from CES for a while for a few contracts, and it's the town and school together.
Mhm.
I don't think the community power would be rolled into the same because it's a municipal entity, but it could be an additional contract with the same
So
company.
if they give us
or
a separate
vendor.
contract
Right.
with the same
Right.
rates and whatever.
Yeah, and they may have varying contract times and durations and yeah,
So,
that stuff. could
Yeah, I'm
vary.
not opposed to that. I just don't know how I should probably read up on how that's all structured, of who's actually able to like speak on behalf of the residents, because there's this government elected official, not elected official thing going on of like who's really making the decisions. for them.
we would still be the advisory group. It's still the town manager or the town council that makes the actual decisions, okay?
So
But,
he'd bring the contract to the committee
yeah,
to
he's
vote
like
on.
our contract contact person. We work with him on getting the contract.
So yeah, whether it comes up through the advisory committee of, hey, here's a contract we think you should take, or it comes from him, it's ultimately in the
Yeah,
town
yeah,
council to vote on.
he would be the one that actually does the contract.
It sounds like in that case, he's doing what they would do, where he's trying to reach out to a supplier and get a bid for all that. I just don't know if that's a lot to
He's
ask
not
of
going
him.
to an actual supplier. He's going to a group similar to what these
Oh.
guys are.
Yeah, CES does what Freedom does.
Oh, okay, okay.
So he has a contract with them
Gotcha.
to do the
Specifically
supply bidding
municipal.
and-
Yeah.
Right,
Energy, right.
for the municipal and for the schools. And they do them combined. Like,
Yeah, I
Bill
mean-
and his counterpart for the school district, they get together and review the contracts together.
That was kind of my concern with this group of like trying to find the vendors, right? Is I don't think this is the best body to be
No.
agile with that. But it
No,
sounds like he
no.
has both the expertise and the full-time
We
job.
should find somebody or whatever and then make a recommendation
Yeah.
and, but the
I would
actual
say
contract
it's
itself.
likely the committee with guidance and input from Bill, but I don't think, like, as the finance director, he works with the town manager to make those decisions for the municipal operations. I don't think he's authorized to make that decision for the town, and that would have to still go back to town council, but you could have more, I guess it gives it a little bit more weight to say that the committee met with the finance director and compared contracts,
Yeah.
and this is what we're recommending to town council.
That makes sense. Yeah, I just want to be sensitive to like shirking off responsibilities to a town employee.
Yeah.
And putting them on the onus for what is really like we are elected, right, to do what we're to speak for the town residents on community power. So I don't want to bypass that.
Yeah, I think he can advise based on his experience.
And we love listening to the town employees. We appreciate very much their expertise. They have a very heavy weight on the advisement.
Yeah, but like Lindsay said before, I think whatever Bill goes with for the town and the school, he may be able to, because of carrying that, he may be able to get us a good deal for the residential side. Yeah, there may be a separate contract, but he'll help negotiate that. It'll be really the town manager and the council that would be.
Yeah, I mean, if CES wants to come and give a presentation, like I don't know.
They have.
That was Larry that was here a couple. You may not have been here that night.
I might have missed that.
That
one.
was
That's probably
a few
why.
meetings ago. Yeah.
I'll find it on YouTube.
So, if okay, I'm going to talk with Bill about that and see what he can do. And if you want to be there,
I'd be happy to be there if it's helpful to just guide the conversation and answer some questions for Bill.
Okay,
and you
good.
can just I think it would be good to bring it to Bill and have that sample contract from them because he has already experience with some of these entities and some of these contracts and review stuff. I think he'd be able to review it fairly quickly and provide some input.
I'd be interested in participating as well,
okay, all right, let me see.
but no pressure.
Again, I don't vision it being a big long meeting. Basically saying something similar to what we just said here.
Yeah.
Hey, can you take we can maybe get this from Freedom Energy. Can we maybe, tag on, tails here and
Yeah.
you get us a better contract?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe following up then when we have new rates and are reviewing that involved there.
Okay, cool. That's all I got.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
All right, thank you all.
Free to go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We've been longer meetings lately.
Heavy topics.